The top 5 profound reasons behind this confrontation that you might not have heard before. Today, we won't just skim the surface of events. Instead, we'll dive into the deep-seated causes, the historical, political, religious, and geostrategic factors that transform these two nations from informal allies into bitter adversaries. This confrontation isn't merely a regional conflict. It's a complex geopolitical chess game impacting global security and profoundly affecting U.S. strategic interests. In light of recent direct attacks, understanding the roots of this relationship is crucial for gaining a comprehensive view of one of the world's most volatile hotspots. Let's begin our exploration. Reason 1. The 1979 Iranian Revolution, a monumental ideological shift. To truly grasp the nature of the confrontation between Israel and Iran, we must rewind to an indelible historical turning point, the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Few realize that prior to this upheaval, the relationship between Tehran and Tel Aviv was quite the opposite of what it is today. Iran, under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was a pro-Western nation, even one of the first Muslim-majority countries to formally recognize the State of Israel. The two maintained diplomatic ties, economic cooperation, and even covert military links, sharing concerns about radical Arab nationalist regimes in the region. It was a period when Iran viewed Israel as a useful counterweight in a volatile region. However, everything changed fundamentally when the Islamic Revolution erupted, overthrowing the monarchy and bringing Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power. This transformation was not merely a change of leadership, but a revolution in ideology. Iran's new government was built on the foundation of radical Islamism, with one of its core ideological pillars being opposition to the arrogant powers of the West, particularly the United States, and fierce antagonism towards the existence of the State of Israel. Khomeini and his successors regarded Israel as an illegitimate Zionist entity, a cancerous tumor in the Islamic world, and a tool of the U.S. to maintain influence in the region. This animosity was immediately evident after the revolution. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was closed and repurposed as the headquarters for the Palestine Liberation Organization. Anti-Israel slogans became an integral part of official political and religious ceremonies. This was more than just foreign policy. It deeply permeated school curricula, state media, and the mindset of generations of Iranians. Therefore, the first and most profound reason lies in this ideological shift, transforming a potential ally into an ideological foe. Iran's opposition to Israel isn't merely political or security-driven. It stems from a deep conviction that Israel's existence is immoral and contrary to the principles of the Islamic Revolution. This fundamental ideological change laid the groundwork for nearly 40 centuries of intense confrontation, shaping every policy and action Tehran took toward Tel Aviv. It turned the conflict into a struggle for not just power, but for deeply held beliefs, making the pursuit of a diplomatic resolution incredibly complex. Reason 2. Iran's nuclear ambitions and Israel's security fears. Next, we cannot overlook a factor that is vital for regional security and the source of Israel's persistent fear: Iran's nuclear program. For decades, Iran has been developing an ambitious uranium enrichment program which it claims is for peaceful civilian purposes, serving energy and medical needs. However, Western intelligence, and particularly Israel, hold an entirely different view. Israel believes that, under the guise of civilian use, Iran is secretly seeking to build nuclear weapons, a scenario that Tel Aviv considers an existential threat to the Jewish state. Israel's fears are not unfounded. History has shown Iran to be less than transparent in its nuclear activities, and reports from the International Atomic Agency, IAEA, have occasionally raised questions. Furthermore, anti-Israel declarations from Iranian leaders heighten concerns that, if possessing nuclear bombs, Iran might use them to fulfill its threats to wipe Israel off the map. For a small nation like Israel, with a history of being surrounded by regional adversaries, nuclear weapons in the hands of an opponent like Iran would fundamentally alter the balance of power and create an unacceptable peril. Israel's response to this threat has been uncompromising. They've adopted a strategy that analysts call a shadow war, involving a series of intelligence operations, sabotage, and cyber attacks aimed at slowing down or neutralizing Iran's nuclear program. Iranian nuclear scientists have been assassinated, nuclear facilities attacked with computer viruses like Stuxnet, and critical research sites mysteriously bombed. These actions, though not officially acknowledged by Israel, are all aimed at undermining Tehran's nuclear capabilities and sending a clear message that Israel will not idly stand by while Iran develops weapons of mass destruction. This creates an endless cycle of tension. Every step Iran takes in its nuclear program is met with a harsh response from Israel, and every Israeli action is viewed by Iran as an act of aggression, a violation of sovereignty. This is a race that neither side can or wants to stop, as each perceives it as a paramount national security issue. The 2015 Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, once offered a glimmer of hope, but the U.S. withdrawal under the Trump administration and Iran's resumption of uranium enrichment pushed the situation back to square one, even more dangerously than before. The uncertainty surrounding Iran's nuclear program continues to be a potential flashpoint for any future escalation. The third reason, the regional struggle for influence and Iran's axis of resistance network. Beyond national borders, Israel and Iran are engaged in a widespread proxy war across the region, vying for power and influence. This is the third reason behind the continuous escalation of tensions. Iran, under the leadership of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its elite Quds force, has built a network of proxy forces and allies stretching from Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq to Yemen and Gaza. This network is often referred to by Iran as the axis of resistance. Iran's objective through this network is twofold. On the one hand, they aim to expand their influence in the region, filling power vacuums and counteracting U.S.-Israeli hegemony. On the other hand, these groups act as Iran's arms, capable of attacking Israel or the interests of the U.S. and rival Arab states without Iran directly engaging in combat. This grants Iran a significant strategic advantage, allowing it to exert pressure on its adversaries without bearing full military responsibility. Among these proxy forces, Hezbollah in Lebanon is arguably the most formidable. Founded and equipped by Iran, Hezbollah is not only a political force but also a powerful armed organization, possessing a vast arsenal of missiles capable of reaching deep inside Israeli territory. Next are the Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, which have played a crucial role in defending the Assad regime and combating Western-backed opposition groups. In Gaza, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad also receive substantial support from Iran, including funding, training, and weaponry. Most recently, the Houthi group in Yemen, with its attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, has demonstrated the ability to disrupt global trade and extend Iran's influence into a new strategic area. Israel views this network as its most serious strategic threat. They accuse Iran of attempting to create a ring of fire around Israel. In response, Israel regularly conducts airstrikes on Iran-linked targets in Syria, aiming at Iranian weapon shipments or Hezbollah bases. They also carry out military operations to weaken Hamas in Gaza. This incessant, albeit undeclared war is a constant source of tension that can erupt into direct conflict at any moment, as we've seen in recent events where tensions escalated beyond the scope of proxy warfare. Controlling and weakening this network is Israel's top priority, while Iran continues to bolster it as an essential tool to achieve its geopolitical objectives.
Reason 4. The Palestinian issue, a catalyst for conflict. While the confrontation between Israel and Iran is largely driven by geopolitical and ideological factors, the Palestinian issue acts as a powerful catalyst, a constant spark ready to ignite, intensifying and exacerbating the animosity between the two sides. This is the fourth reason we need to examine closely. For Iran, supporting the Palestinian cause is not just a foreign policy stance, but an integral part of their revolutionary ideology. It allows Iran to position itself as the protector of the Islamic world against Zionist occupation and to garner support from Muslim and Arab communities, regardless of sectarian differences. Iran is predominantly Shiite, while most of the Arab world is Sunni. Iran's support for the Palestinians extends beyond rhetoric. Tehran has been providing financial aid, weapons, training, and strategic advice to Palestinian militant groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ. These groups frequently launch rockets and carry out attacks on Israel from the Gaza Strip or the West Bank. When conflict erupts between Israel and the Palestinians, Iran consistently sides with the Palestinian armed groups, condemning Israel and calling for Muslim unity against Tel Aviv. This creates a vicious cycle. Actions by Iranian-backed Palestinian groups provoke reactions from Israel, and those reactions are then used by Iran to reinforce its anti-Israel stance. For Israel, Iran's deep involvement in the Palestinian issue through arming and supporting groups like Hamas poses a direct security threat. Israel considers Hamas and PIJ to be terrorist organizations, and Iran's funding of them is seen as destabilizing the region. Major conflicts in Gaza often become proxy wars between Israel and Iran, where Iran supplies weapons and logistics, and Israel seeks to dismantle the military capabilities of these groups. Although direct attacks between Iran and Israel may not be directly linked to Palestine, whenever Israel-Palestine tensions escalate, the risk of an Iran-Israel conflict also significantly increases. The Palestinian issue is not just a security flashpoint, but also a battleground for image and political leverage. Iran exploits the suffering of the Palestinians to build its image as a champion of Islamic justice, while Israel accuses Iran of exploiting the issue to serve its regional hegemonic ambitions. The deadlock in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process further provides opportunities for Iran to consolidate its influence and keep the anti-Israel flame alive. As long as the Palestinian issue remains unresolved, it will continue to be a powerful tool in the confrontation between Iran and Israel. Reason 5. The complex role of the United States and other great powers. The fifth and perhaps most global factor is the complex role of the United States and other great powers in the Israel-Iran confrontation. Washington has long been a strategic ally and unwavering supporter of Israel's security, providing significant military aid and diplomatic backing. This commitment stems from shared values, strategic interests, and the strong influence of pro-Israel lobbying groups in the U.S. For Israel, American support is a key factor in maintaining its military edge in the region and countering threats. However, the U.S. position regarding Iran is far more intricate. Washington aims to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons and to curb Tehran's destabilizing activities in the region. Yet, the U.S. must also balance protecting its ally while avoiding a full-scale war in the Middle East, which could have unpredictable economic, security, and political consequences globally. Successive U.S. administrations have employed various strategies, ranging from stringent economic sanctions to diplomatic efforts through the Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA. The U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA under the Trump administration was seen by Iran as a provocative act, leading Tehran to resume uranium enrichment activities and escalating tensions. Inconsistencies or shifts in U.S. policy sometimes make Israel feel insecure, prompting it to act unilaterally, as seen in attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. Conversely, Iran accuses the U.S. of being part of an imperial axis aimed at undermining its regime. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle of distrust and escalation. Besides the U.S., other great powers also play their own roles. Russia and China maintain relations with Iran, often opposing Western sanctions and potentially providing economic or military support to Tehran, which complicates Western efforts to isolate Iran. Russia's presence in Syria, where both Iran and Israel operate, also creates a complex web of relationships, requiring careful coordination to avoid direct clashes. Finally, neighboring Arab states, particularly Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, are also significant players. They share common concerns about Iran's ambitions, and the normalization of relations between some of these countries with Israel through the Abraham Accords has created a new front against Iran, although these relationships remain fragile. The Israel-Iran confrontation is not merely a bilateral conflict, it is a litmus test for regional stability and the global order, where global and regional powers alike have overlapping and often conflicting interests. We've just walked through the 5 most profound reasons that have shaped and sustained the intense relationship between Israel and Iran. From the fundamental ideological shift of the Iranian Revolution, the fears surrounding Iran's nuclear program, the battle for influence through proxy forces, to the role of the Palestinian issue and the complex intervention of great powers like the United States, each factor contributes to a geopolitical landscape fraught with risk and unpredictability. Clearly, this relationship cannot be simplified by straightforward explanations or isolated events. It's a labyrinth of history, ideology, national interests, and existential fears. A thorough understanding of these deep-seated causes not only helps us interpret current developments, but also allows us to anticipate potential future challenges, not only for the Middle East, but for global security. The risk of a direct and full-scale conflict remains ever present, and the interplay of these factors will continue to determine whether tensions escalate or are contained. Given this information and analysis, we'd like to pose a few questions for you to ponder and share. In your opinion, among the 5 reasons we've discussed, which one has the greatest influence in driving the current tensions between Israel and Iran? Is there any viable path to de-escalation, or is a full-scale confrontation inevitable in the near future? And how do you think the United States should adjust its role to both protect its interests and promote peace and stability in the complex Middle East context? Your perspectives are incredibly valuable. Please share your thoughts and insights in the comments section below. Your contributions motivate us to continue delivering deep and multifaceted analyses. Thank you for listening. We look forward to having you join us next time.